All right, what's up, y'all? Hold on, let me make sure audio is on good. Okay, yeah, we're good. All right, so what up, y'all? So for this stream, I got another deposition lined up. This one was one of the clients of the civil rights lawyer, and he has the entire thing go his channel. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Y'all see this where we at with it. Wait for a couple of people to come in. Hey, Karen, Renetta, Gummo, hashtag stop muting body cam footage. Y'all already know. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's probably, let me see, it's probably late over there. Yeah, it's pretty late in the morning. Yeah, I guess a lot of people gonna have to catch this live probably a little bit later. But for the people who are in here now and get to catch it, hope y'all enjoy. I think this is gonna be a good one. Just because of who the victim was, and since this is the civil rights lawyer's client, I know this is gonna be a good one. So I don't want to wait it out too much. Go ahead and get started, because I know a lot of people might not be up to see this, so might as well just go ahead and get started. I appreciate all y'all for being here, and let's go.
Section 1983 case is based on violation.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna have to take this off.
Of the Fourth Amendment, specifically excessive use of force. When a police officer uses an excessive amount of force on somebody who is just walking down the street, or somebody who's had an encounter with the officer, could be one of my favorite types of cases to file are Section 1983 cases based on violations of the Fourth Amendment, specifically excessive use of force. When a police officer uses an excessive amount of force on somebody who is just walking down the street, or somebody who's had an encounter with the officer, could be somebody who is being arrested by the officer.
What's up, Scarecrow?
If excessive force is used, then the Fourth Amendment can be violated. So I'm going to show you brand new video that's never been seen before on YouTube, showing my client, Melvin Sargent, who had already had force used on him. What had happened is the police had been called to his home by a third party because they heard him having an argument with his wife. And when the police arrived, my client, who had no criminal history whatsoever, had a pistol on him. He was lawfully open carrying, as he's allowed to do in West Virginia. And as soon as he saw that law enforcement was there, he put his hands up and he turned around so that they could see that he had a pistol in a holster on his belt. And it's his allegation that he was then beaten. The video didn't start until the second part of that, when he was already in handcuffs and being placed into the patrol car. And you can see for yourself what happened. And that's the great thing about video. As the U.S. Supreme Court held in Scott versus Harris, video controls if the police officer testimony contradicts what you see in the video. And that might be actually what happens here when you look at what the police report actually said.
Bitch. You got body cam, I'm gonna say right here. There you go. Bitch. You look these motherfucking guts out. Why? Look at these motherfuckers, man. I'm serious. Stop hitting them, bitch. Stop hitting them.
Stop it.
Girl.
Stop.
Girl,
Stop it.
I've known you for years.
Okay, I understand that. But he has got it under control. He has got to stop.
You don't need to hit him in the face.
Stop it.
To get him under control. I know.
When someone comes,
I can call you a bunch of state troopers if you want.
Hey,
All right, then I
Patricia.
will. Then I will.
We don't care who you call.
Do you know who my stepbrother is?
I don't care.
No, you don't. Because he got killed.
Come on.
He got killed on 77.
Hey, boy, you need to get in him. Look at me.
Bitch, quit. Bitch, no. Bitch, please.
Listen.
Don't hit him like that.
All right, so listen.
Oh
Listen.
Look at the gloves.
When I tell him to put his hands on his hand
I understand.
and he goes to grab his back, I'm going to protect me, him,
I'm
her,
sorry.
or him.
I know.
They're going to get your info. I'm taking him to the office.
Well, I know you both, so you know my info. You both know my info.
I know. She's going to get your info.
I'm sorry. Man,
All right, let's take a look at slow motion, the use of force that's captured on the video here. You see that my client's handcuffed. He is not assaulting the officer in any way. And then all of a sudden, boom, the deputy pushes him into the patrol car. He's still handcuffed. And you'll see that the officer then lunges in after him and his body jerks around just like he's punching him. You can see that the client here, he's handcuffed, and there is when the push begins. And there's his glove afterwards. That's one of those weaponized Oakley gloves, I believe, and it's got my client's blood on it, right on the knuckles. And look at all the blood stains on my client's pants after he got out of jail and went to the hospital. And that's his hand that was broken because it was stomped. So let's take another look at how we got those pictures of the bloody gloves. And that's when Deputy Bish, who was the guy who had used the force against my client, walked back over to my client's wife who was filming him, and they knew each other from the past. And he's explaining why he did what he did to her. And you can see the whole time the bloody knuckles, which he probably didn't even realize at the time were there.
Okay.
and she don't even touch me like that, bitch. You know who
She
my
don't know
brother-in-law
you.
is.
She don't know you.
But you know who my brother-in-law is.
But here's the thing. She's going to...
He's an Interstate 77 guy that got killed last year.
You don't need to touch me like boy. Sorry, ma'am. I'm not listening to anything you say.
I got it.
I'm not listening.
I got it. But I know them too, and I'm a good person, and I do a lot of good things
I
with you.
understand that, but when he's fighting and that's going on, I'm really not listening. Okay, I'm trying to get you back.
Is that my gun? That's my gun.
This is yours?
Yes, it's
Well, how is he fighting when he's in handcuffs? I guess they consider you doing any. Once you're in handcuffs, I mean, how much more fight do you have?
registered to me. You can go run it. That's mine. No, bitch, no. Run it, please. It's in my name. I swear. Run it.
You're gonna get it back.
No, that's my fucking gun, though.
Joey,
really?
Come on. Get her info.
So, girl, no, they know my info. Don't you come near me,
Come on.
bitch. No.
Listen.
Really?
And this is where the video takes really a bizarre turn, where another deputy who wasn't involved in that use of force walks up to my client's wife who's filming and actually puts his hands around the wife's throat and decides to give her an instruction on respecting the authority and respecting the badge. Apparently, the wife knew this deputy became a male deputy, and when he was then a female deputy, they apparently knew each other.
You're gonna end up in jail drinking.
All right.
I need
What,
you to
Heather?
see. Do you see this fucking badge on her
Yes,
chest?
I do, Heather.
You know what that means. You
Yes,
respect it.
Yes.
You respect
Please
me.
don't touch
Listen,
me.
you respect me. All right? I'm
We're just trying to get an update if you guys need EMS for either deputies or
Like that, though.
I'm not. I'm trying to get your attention because you're looking over
They
here.
take control of pepper spray used this time.
You respect me. You respect her. You hear
Yeah,
me? You've been
those
drinking.
pepper spray
A
used
little
this
Then I
time.
suggest you stop.
Okay, I
You feel
stop.
me?
Yeah, I feel you. Hey, Derek, I'm sorry.
When we're talking.
I get it. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry.
What's your name and birthday?
Sorry. I guess the rest me next.
Apparently, at about the time that my client's wife was getting lectured about respecting the badge, the client is in the back of the car handcuffed, and he sees this happening with the deputy's hands going around her throat, and he starts to really freak out and scream or get upset. And then the same deputy who had used the force on him apparently opens the door and sprays him with pepper spray, then closes the car door. And that now in this next clip, as his wife is trying to get her gun back that had been seized, you can hear my client in the background from inside the police car crying about his eyes.
When can I get him? Tomorrow, after you talk to us. How much he's like? Where's he gonna be?
It's gonna be the judge.
Where's he gonna be at?
After I get him back to the office call. Okay. Just let me breathe. Let me get him to the office and you can call. Okay.
All right.
That's pretty much all
They
the video
pepper sprayed him
shows.
while he
So
was
there was
already in
apparently
handcuffs.
another use of force on the way to take him for processing. They had stopped the car and apparently used force on him again, even though he was handcuffed in the back of the car. But at least we have a portion of this that was caught on video. Now,
Sure.
after he was arrested, he ended up bonding out later and was taken immediately to the hospital by his wife. And they documented that he did have, these abrasions still on his body, and including a fractured hand from where the same deputy who used force on him actually stomped his hands. And that's why my client
That is
was
a lot.
asking and really begging this deputy to
You have to stomp on somebody's hand really hard to actually like break their hand. Like that has to be a deliberate, like crushing blow, like with the heel of your foot to break somebody's hand or fracture it. Meaning I don't think you accidentally break somebody's hand with by stepping on it. I think you have to deliberately be trying to break their hand and for it to happen when you like. It's not like they're on the ground and okay, you step on their hand and kind of fumble around. You have to deliberately see their hand right there and stomp at it in order to have that type of injury, in my opinion. Which tells you, man, telling you these cops, pure evil, man, devils.
loosen the handcuffs when he was getting put into the car. And that's why he was sort of turning around, showing him the handcuffs, because his hand had been stomped by the deputy and it was broken and it was starting to swell and was really hurting. And we have photographs of his hands where the swelling had really caused these abrasions on the handcuffs after they were put on. Here are the charges that he was charged with: 2 counts of obstructing an officer and 2 counts of battery on an officer. And here is the actual police report that was included in the criminal narrative for the charges. And you ask yourself if you see this in the video. All right. At this point, Deputy Calloway arrived on the scene, began to
Hold on, y'all.
case is that one count of obstruction was dropped. He pled guilty to the other count of obstructing an officer, and both counts of battery on an officer were dropped by the prosecutor's office. And that is a really telling fact. Now that the criminal case was resolved, we can go ahead and proceed with the civil side of things. Like I said, this is basic Fourth Amendment excessive force law under the Graham factors. And I believe that just based on what you see on the video, that will be a strong enough case to get to a jury. Now,
All right, Karen.
what a jury does with it is always a roll of the dice, and we'll just have to see. So stay tuned.
Righty, what's up? Crazy shit. It's crazy seeing a lawyer do deadlifts for some reason. I don't know. That's funny for some reason to me.
Cops arrived. Boom, it went straight pretty much.
All right, y'all. So this is the deposition of that arrest that we just watched.
In a prior video, I first showed you the footage where my client's wife had filmed police arresting him in the front yard of their house. This was following a domestic call. When the cops arrived, boom, it went straight pretty much into a use of force against my client. The latter, basically half of that, ended up being filmed by my client's wife. So fast forward to the federal lawsuit being filed, and I'll link the original video here in the description so you can review that first. Now you get to see, this just happened last week where I took the depositions of the police officers who were involved in that incident, got to put them under oath and ask them questions. So here's something really you rarely get to see. And I'm curious, I cut it up a little bit. This will have to be part one because it's long. I'm curious to see what you think. So you saw the video and you can actually read the lawsuit allegations. Now you actually get to see the evidence. Take a look. Really curious to know what you think.
This is the video deposition of Joshua Bish being taken by the plaintiff, Civil Action 121 CV 615, captioned Melvin Sargent.
Well, he looks very nice and friendly.
Sargent v. Joshua Bish et al.
Look at the eyes, man. Look at the eyes. If that's not demon eyes, I don't. Come on now. That's, look at him.
U.S. District Court for the Southern District.
No soul, just pure hatred and deceit. It's just, you can
District
see
of
it.
West Virginia at Bluefield.
Do you remember why you were initially called to this scene?
I was advised by Mercer 911 that there was a ongoing domestic between Melvin Sargent and another female, where Melvin Sargent had apparently was arguing and physical and was trying to kick down a door.
And do you remember who had called 911?
Off the top of my head, no.
Did you know at the time?
No. All we received was the name of the individual that was possibly causing the problems. And
Had you ever been to that location before?
no, I have not.
Were you familiar with that location at all?
No.
Did you know who lived there?
No.
As of that moment, did you know who Melvin Sargent was?
No.
Okay. When you pulled up to the scene on November 28th, tell me about it. What did you see upon your initial arrival?
When I pulled in, I observed a female a few car lengths away, walking away, and observed Mr. Sargent, the male individual that was described to be Melvin Sargent, walking from the road in the yard, going towards the basement door of the residence. At that point, I observed the male. He was kind of walking with his fist clenched, kind of looked irritated, and the female was obviously upset, crying. And because more hadn't been certified and what hadn't dealt with any, I didn't feel comfortable with her approaching anybody that may have been aggressive of any way. I told her to go talk to the female, and I went to go talk to Mr. Sargent. It was one of those real quick, hey, you go talk to her, I'm gonna go talk to him.
Let me refer you to your police report. Again, you wrote that report, right?
Correct.
You were aware of the fact that you needed to include all important details in your report.
Correct.
Okay. And do you believe that you did that?
I believe I did, yes.
Okay. You wrote that Deputy Adair later advised you that Mr. Sargent and her were talking about Mr. Sargent's deceased mother, at which point her mother came into the room that they were in and rolled her eyes about the conversation, which aggravated Mr. Sargent, causing them to argue. She advised prior to law enforcement arrival there was no violence and nothing is wrong.
Yes,
Is that your understanding?
that's my understanding.
Now, you told me you didn't know who the 911 caller was.
Correct.
Did you ever talk to the 911 caller before arresting Melvin Sargent that day?
No.
Did you ever even find out the name of the 911 caller prior to arresting Melvin Sargent?
I think I remember asking them, but I don't ask them, daring them to get all the information, but that was about it.
But you never talked to the 911 caller?
No, I did not.
Did you talk to Jolena Chavez prior to arresting Melvin Sargent?
Prior to arresting, no.
But prior to arresting him, you had not talked to any witnesses, correct?
No, correct.
Prior to arresting him, you hadn't even talked to the plaintiff about what had happened or what had not happened.
Correct.
Now, what about Melvin Sargent? Did you know who he was?
I just gathered from the description 911 gave and his mannerism, how he was walking, and he was obviously upset and irritated. And I wanted to talk to him first, considering he was because how he was walking and carrying himself, felt he was more of possibly the possible suspect that 911 had described, and figured go ahead and talk to him before he gets too far away and I have to run.
So where was he located physically when you first saw him?
Whenever I first pulled in, he was to my 3 o'clock in the driveway, maybe from here to the second pew.
So he was located in the driveway to this residence?
Correct. And walking away from me towards the basement door.
And did you say anything to him initially?
I did. I asked him, hey, stop right there for a minute.
Did he say anything to you?
No, he acted like he didn't hear me, which I gave benefit of the doubt that just pulled in. A woman down the street was screaming pretty loud and crying, and my car was running. So I went around to the front of the car, kind of faster pace. Hey, bud, stop right there. And he complied.
Did you, upon your arrival, did you personally observe any crime being committed by anybody?
Upon my arrival, no.
It didn't appear to you that Melvin Sargent was threatening her in any way, did it?
I didn't see any type of threats at that point. No, he was walking away from her.
You didn't see any domestic violence, anything like that?
No.
Did you know at the time who lived at that house?
No, I did not.
Did you assume that these two individuals lived at that house?
I'd imagine that they was the ones that was living there.
Did you identify yourself to him?
Yes.
What'd you say?
Like I did with any time I approached anybody, I'm Deputy Bish with the Sheriff's Department.
And did you tell him why you were there?
I was getting ready to, hey, I need you to stop right there. He stopped, and I said, before here over some type of fight or something, I don't know what else is going on, but before we go any farther, I need to patch you down and make sure there's no weapons or anything that can hurt me or you.
All right. So at the time this interaction took place, you're both standing in the driveway.
Correct. Close to the basement door.
And you had not at that point talked to Jolena Chavez.
Correct.
You had no idea what she had to say.
Correct.
You had not observed any crime being committed as of yet, have you?
Correct.
In fact, you didn't have probable cause at that point to believe that any crime had been committed.
I had
form. Sorry, you can answer.
I had reasonable suspicion that there was something that had happened.
You got a domestic call.
Yes.
You had reasonable suspicion to show up to that call.
Yes.
Now, you know what probable cause is.
Correct.
You would agree with me that at the point you first encountered Melvin Sargent, you didn't yet have any probable cause to believe that he had committed a crime.
Correct. All I had was reasonable.
So when you first encountered him, he wasn't under arrest at that point.
No.
Was he a suspect?
No. He was an individual in the scene of the call that would fit the description of what was described.
So he wasn't even a suspect of any particular crime at that point.
Correct.
When this first initial encounter between you and Mr. Sargent took place, did he attempt to flee or evade you?
No.
So when you told him to stop, he stopped?
After the second time. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt because of the circumstances.
And then what happened?
He turned around, looked at me, told him, hey, my name's Deputy Bish, Sheriff's Department. You just stop. We're here over some type of fight. And prior we go any further, I'm going to make sure you don't have any weapons or anything that can hurt me or you so we can figure out what's going on. He ended up putting his left hand kind of towards me, and like this, and he started to move his right hand behind his back.
And at this point, you don't have an arrest warrant, right?
No.
You don't have a search warrant for the residence?
No.
So did Melvin turn around and face you?
He did.
You asked Melvin at that time for ID?
No.
Did you ask him what his name was?
No. My main goal at first is to make the scene safe.
Did you have any indications that this scene was not safe?
From how he was walking and his nature of how he was looking, felt that there may be something to it.
And you said that was the fact that he had clenched fists.
Clenched fists, how he was walking, and just his overall mannerisms. And
How would you describe this walk?
What?
Tense, like his muscles was tensed.
Were you wearing a body cam?
No, I was not.
And did Melvin say anything to you at this point?
No.
So at that point, were you detaining Melvin?
At that point, I was approaching him to conduct the safety check to ensure the scene was safe and beginning to ask my questions for why are we here?
Well, I mean, was he free to leave and go in the house at that point?
At that point, no.
So you were conducting a safety check and he was being detained, had to comply with that safety check?
Yes.
Did you ever ask for Melvin Sargent or any other homeowner or any other resident at that time, or someone you thought was a resident, for permission to be on the property?
No.
I assume nobody gave you permission to be on the property.
Nobody told me I couldn't.
Did Melvin give you any indications that he didn't want you on the property?
No.
You wrote in your report that at first Melvin began to comply.
Yes.
You told him to stop and he stopped.
Yes, he stopped, turned around, faced me, put his left hand up and started reaching behind his back with his right.
Didn't you ask him to put his hands on his head?
No.
You didn't?
No, I asked him to stop right there and I'm just going to pat you down real fast.
You didn't write in your report that you asked Melvin to put his hands on top of his head?
No.
All right, I asked you if you asked Melvin Sargent to put his hands on top of his head, and your recollection is that you had not.
No.
But reviewing the report that you wrote after this incident, your report indicates that you did.
Yes.
Which is it?
It would be what's on the report.
All right, you wrote in your report, as I approached, I observed Mr. Sargent had his right hand in his right front pocket and his left hand on his side.
Yes.
I told Mr. Sargent to place his hands on top of his head, that I was going to conduct a safety check to ensure he did not have any weapons.
Correct.
When you asked Mr. Sargent to put his hands on top of his head, what did he do?
He put his left hand out in front of him and started to reach behind his back with his right.
And you didn't know who he was, right?
No.
All right. So then what did you do?
When his hand went up, and then I seen his right hand going behind his back, with my left hand, I reached around on his wrist to do a come-along hold with a simple wrist maneuver to gain compliance, because I didn't know what he was reaching for, and I'm not taking any type of chances to risk myself or himself or anybody else's safety.
And why specifically his right hand? Why'd you grab his right hand?
All right.
I don't know why he don't just be honest and say, I was making sure he didn't hurt me, versus, oh, I was scared that he was going to hurt me, himself, or like, come on, man. You know you don't care about that. You know. Just say you were scared for your life, like they do, just to. Bro, I don't understand how they can be so scared when they're the ones with the major firepower. I just don't get it. Y'all have all the firepower in the world, and yet y'all are the ones that the most fearful, until you realize they have the most fear until they realize that nobody has anything that they can do to fight back. Then that's when they become tyrannical.
I grabbed his left, I'm sorry, as he was facing me.
All right. Well, you wrote in your report that you grabbed his right hand. All right. I believe if you look at third paragraph, you say, I told Mr. Sargent to place his hands on top of his head, that I was going to conduct a safety check to ensure he did not have any weapons. At this point, Mr. Sargent began to comply at which point I stepped towards him and began to reach for his right hand, at which point he started to step away.
Yes.
All right, so initially you went to reach for his right hand.
Yes, that was the one that was moving, but it was on his opposite side, and his left hand was right there in front of me.
All right, why did you begin to reach initially for his right hand?
I didn't know what he was reaching for.
Okay. It wasn't because you were going to handcuff him?
No.
Because he wasn't under arrest at that point.
No. At that point, if we could play a whole what if game all day with it, but if he would have just let me pat him down and found out nothing would have been wrong, we'd have been on our way.
He hadn't threatened you?
No.
He hadn't attempted to strike you?
No.
So what happened next?
When I was able to grab his wrist, he attempted to pull away very aggressively, and considering he was still trying to reach behind his back and then complying with me from telling him to stop, I ended up striking him with a closed fist to the right cheek, or left cheek, I'm sorry. I ended up striking him in the left side of his cheek. We began to spin around and wrestle around a bit till my back was to the house, and he ended up getting pressed up against a car door, a car that was in the driveway. I was able to get him spun around. At this point, Deputy Moore had came down, assisted with the wrestling match for a moment, and we both observed that there was a firearm in the small of his back. Deputy Moore secured that, was able to pull that weapon out and went to go secure it, at which point I was able to manipulate his arm a little bit more to where I was able to put him onto the ground. He ended up rolling onto his back, and we continued to wrestle. At that point, he was, in my eyes, he was under arrest, and it was pretty much just a big old wrestling match until Deputy Moore got back after securing the weapon somewhere, and we was able to get him rolled over on his stomach and handcuffed.
Right, but you didn't have any information or indication that he was armed at that point?
I didn't know.
Because you hadn't seen the gun yet?
Correct.
Okay, so you're just treating him like anyone you're encountering, they theoretically could be armed?
Yes, anybody can be armed with anything, and my goal is I want them and me to go home at the end of the day.
But nobody had told you that he was armed?
Correct.
And he hadn't told you that he was armed?
No.
You hadn't seen a gun?
No.
So you hadn't run his criminal history or anything like that?
No.
So at this point,
we're still in the driveway, but because we're moving, it's the doors. I'm not sure where the basement door was.
He doesn't want to have this interaction with you?
Correct.
So was he under arrest at that point?
At that point, as soon as he refused to allow for a safety pat down, he was under arrest for the obstructing.
So did you ever go to the ground with him?
After the firearm was secured. Me and Melvin ended up going to the ground, continued to wrestle. When Moore got back down there, he kicked her in the chest, after which point I again struck him with a closed fist, trying to gain compliance. And eventually we was able to get him rolled over and handcuffed.
Melvin Sargent had never grabbed a gun?
No, he never actually touched it.
And what happened after you punched him in the face?
He lost balance a little bit, and that's when I was able to maneuver to where I was facing his back to get him.
All right. What happened after you got him to the ground?
We wrestled, trying to get him to roll over using empty hand control, wrist manipulation to get him to roll over.
Did you strike him again?
I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't technically remember.
Now, Melvin alleges that at some point during this time period that you stomped his hand or his wrist. Do you deny that?
Yeah, I never stomped anything.
Do you have any idea what could have injured his wrist or his hand during this encounter?
During this encounter, nothing. It could have been from before we got there, him hitting something, or.
Now he's just completely lying, even though he's been lying the whole time. But this is a blatant lie. He's saying the man hand could have already been. Come on, man, get out of here. Y'all know y'all beat the man up and stomped on his hand. Come on, man. You couldn't think of a better, maybe it got closed in the door or something. Like you couldn't. He's just gonna say, I don't know how it happened. You know, his hand just became broken and swelled up out of nowhere.
That's something happened at the jail.
But you did punch him in the face.
Yes.
You never were aware of any injury to Melvin's wrist?
No.
Now, when you punched Melvin, were you wearing gloves?
I was.
Tell me about your gloves.
They're a cloth mixed with a type of UFC type knuckle covering to protect my knuckles and anything I come in contact with.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as exhibit number 5 for this deposition.
Yes.
Now, I'll represent to you that that is a screenshot that I took out of the video that we have in this case. Does that screenshot accurately represent your hand and your glove on the date of this incident?
It does.
I'll also show you what's been marked as exhibit number 6. I know this isn't the greatest quality, but that is a close-up of your glove, also from the same video.
It is.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It's your testimony that these gloves, they have reinforced knuckles.
I wouldn't say they're reinforced. You know the UFC type gloves that have like a little padding.
That's reinforced. What are you talking? That's reinforced. The glove is reinforced, meaning it's something over the knuckle area. Meaning it's not just like putting on a regular latex glove. You know, a latex glove isn't reinforced. A leather glove with padding over the knuckle is obviously reinforced. So if you punch somebody, it's less damage on your knuckles. If you beat on somebody, it's less damage on your knuckles. If you have to punch something, it's less damage on your knuckle. That's a reinforced glove.
That's all it is. It's a thing. It's just, I broke my hand a few times, so I wear it so I don't do it again. And
you broke your hand a few times and you wear it so it won't happen again. I wonder how you kept breaking your hand the first times. How many people have you broken your hands on?
You broke your hand a few times punching people?
Yes, it was in a fight.
While you were working as a police officer?
Yes.
Wow. Look at his face while he admits to this.
So as a result of that, you bought these gloves?
Yes.
They have extra material at the knuckles.
They do. It's a padding type thing.
So that's to protect your knuckles when you're punching people.
It protects my knuckles, and if I make contact with another individual, it protects them from any type of like knuckle cut or anything.
So you're saying that
he bought these gloves. He said he bought these gloves so it protects him and protects the people he beat up. What? Bro, how can you say that with a straight face, man? I can't believe he said that. He said he bought these gloves to protect his knuckles because he broke his hand a couple of times beating up on people, fighting while he was on duty, and he bought them so he can kind of protect himself from breaking his hand again and protect the people from getting knuckle cuts from him beating them up. This guy is crazy.
when you punch somebody with that, it's actually going to feel better to them because you have that glove?
It should, yeah.
Wow.
It feels just like one of the UFC gloves, like little makeshift boxing gloves you wear when you're sparring.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the UFC gloves,
yes.
and those are not UFC gloves.
No, they're not UFC, but that's what the padding feels like.
I mean, they'd have some problems in UFC if they use those gloves.
Okay. I'm just saying the gloves are that's what the padding feels like.
Do you still have the gloves?
I do not.
Why not?
When they got blood on them, I threw them away.
Disgusting.
I don't take anything that gets blood on back home to my house.
Did you buy another pair?
I did.
Do you still have it?
Those ones, no.
Now, those were not issue gloves.
Correct.
So that was just your private purchase.
Yes.
Did you get any sort of authorization from your employer to buy or wear those gloves?
I got them from, at the time when I bought them, Chief Deputy Bailey. I showed them to him. He said they were perfectly fine.
At any point, did your employer instruct you to no longer wear those gloves?
No.
But since you left the Mercer County Sheriff's Office, you've never warn them again?
No, because the policy down there is
What?
they don't allow any type of gloves.
And in your job now, you don't find the occasion to punch people.
I probably will, but I haven't yet.
What?
You said you threw those gloves away because they had blood on
What did he just say? I bet I missed that.
them, to no longer wear those gloves.
No.
But since you left the Mercer County Sheriff's Office, you've never worn them again.
No, because the policy down there is
What?
they don't allow any type of gloves.
And in your job now, you don't
Right,
find the
I'm sorry
occasion
to
to
hear
punch
that.
people.
I probably will, but I haven't yet.
Hope you get
You
well.
said you threw those gloves away because they had blood on them, right?
Correct.
And
I probably will.
in your job now, you don't find the occasion to punch people.
I probably will, but I haven't yet.
I keep backing this up because it's so unbelievable that he just said this with a straight face. Look at him. And they still, I cannot believe this. And this is the people on the force.
You said you threw those gloves away because they had blood on them, right?
Correct.
Wow.
And that blood was Melvin Sargent's blood.
Not sure.
Well, they didn't have blood. The knuckles of your gloves did not have blood on them already on your first arrival at Melvin Sargent's house.
Correct. My mouth was bleeding as well.
All right. Well, you punched Melvin Sargent, you said, in the face.
Yes, in the cheek.
All right. And he was bleeding.
I'm not 100% sure if he was or wasn't. I didn't notice any cuts or.
All right. So you have no idea if that's Melvin Sargent's blood.
Correct.
So you're saying it could be your own blood?
It could be.
On your knuckles?
Yes.
You didn't punch yourself, right?
No, I did not.
You punched Melvin Sargent.
Correct.
And it's your testimony here today under oath that you don't know whether or not he was bleeding.
Correct. I'm not 100%. No.
He was treated subsequently for lacerations inside his mouth. You have no idea how that could have occurred.
Inside of his mouth? No, I have no idea.
That's not from you punching him in the face.
It could. I don't know.
You have no explanation for that?
No.
Did you ever see Melvin Sargent punch himself?
No.
Did you ever see him slam his head into your police cruiser or anything like that?
I know he kicked and thrashed around in the backseat of the cruiser quite a bit, but I never seen him physically punch himself.
You're not alleging that he injured himself.
Oh no.
Whatever side it was,
Yeah.
other than the one punch to Melvin's face that you already testified about, did you ever strike him in the face again during this incident?
Yeah, while he was on the ground wrestling, after he had kicked Deputy Moore, causing her to fall backwards.
Is this before he was handcuffed?
Yes.
Okay. And how many additional times did you strike?
Just
Melvin?
just the two total, the one initial and the one on the ground. I didn't want to throw any more punches because I was afraid if I would, because where I was on top of him and he was on the ground, his head would have bounced off of the ground or something.
He don't care nothing about that. Nothing about him says that he would even care about that at all, based on what he said through this entire deposition. I doubt that he just hit him 2 times because it doesn't seem like he has that much restraint to hold himself back after starting to punch people. This is the type of person that once they start fighting, they want to keep fighting.
Cause do undue harm. I didn't want to do that.
So to the best of your recollection, it's your testimony that you punched Melvin twice that day.
Yes.
And are you positive that you didn't punch him any more times?
Correct.
Were your emotion levels up at this point?
No.
Were you angry?
Just fat and out of breath.
Then what'd you do?
We both stood up for maybe 5-10 seconds so we can collect me personally could collect my breath. And like I said, I just got done eating Thanksgiving dinner and I didn't want to throw up on the poor dude. And we collected ourselves and we was able to get him to stand up and walk him up towards my cruiser.
So you guys got him up and you put him in the police car, is that right?
Walked him up to the driveway and towards on the passenger side of my cruiser.
And then did you put him in the car?
Yeah, I put him in the seat, sat him down. His feet was still outside the cruiser. He refused to put his feet back into the cruiser. I told him multiple times to do it, He complained that his handcuffs was too tight. But prior to that, whenever he was handcuffed, it was with Deputy Moore's handcuffs, and I'd been training her, and I observed her do the pinky tight, which is where you can slide your whole finger inside the cuffs.
Who put the cuffs on?
She did.
All right. It's my understanding from reading your report that you guys put him in the back of the police cruiser and shut the door initially.
No.
No?
Not initially, no.
Take a look at the report. Let's see if we can clear this up. Okay, the next sentence you wrote in your report, after closing the passenger rear side door, Mr. Sargent began to kick the inside of my door, causing the door to begin to bow out.
Correct.
All right, that seems to imply to me, or to tell me, that you had closed the passenger.
I want to. So, what is it about being a cop that you have to give up your humanity? Because it's like a lot of these cops, once they become cops, they don't work on. They don't. It's like they're not human anymore. Look at this. Look at this look right here, man. Oh my goodness. Pure evil.
Your rear side door.
When we first got to up there, he refused to get in and ended up having to force him into the vehicle to get his legs all the way in before we could shut it.
The point is you put him in the car and you closed the door.
After I had to force him in, yes.
All right, so you forced him in the rear passenger door and closed the rear passenger door.
Yes.
So he's inside the rear of the police cruiser.
Yes.
The door is closed.
Yes.
He's handcuffed.
Yes.
Behind his back.
Yes.
Then what happened?
I went to the opposite side to where his head was, opened the door, pulled out my OC spray, and advised him if he did not stop trying to kick the door, break the window, he would be pepper sprayed.
So you had the door closed, and then you opened that same door.
Opposite door.
All right. Are you sure it's the opposite door?
Yes, because his head was toward, I wasn't going to go down where he was kicking at.
All right. You wrote in your report, at this point, I opened the same door and began to tell Mr. Sargent to calm down and stop kicking the door, or he would be sprayed with OC.
I'm going to go with that. It's going to be a typo. No.
All right. So you're saying your report is wrong.
On that sentence.
Why would you have written the same door in your report?
Considering this narrative was written quite a few hours later. And
all right, let's get. It's about 2 p.m. here right now. They are hypnotized at the academy. Something has to be going on. I kind of agree with this this statement Ron Moore put up. Cops don't become psychopaths. Psychopaths become cops. Yeah, man, it's just unbelievable. It's like they turn off their human and become
tired, wanting to go home. Rushed it. It is a mistake.
Would it be fair to say that you're, even a few hours after the incident, that your memory about the incident would have been more accurate in 2019 than it is here today in August of 2022?
My recollection, it's still pretty similar to it.
All right, so he's closed, he's handcuffed behind his back, he's in the rear of the cruiser, he's kicking the inside of the door. You then open, you say, the driver's side passenger door, right?
Yes.
And then you do what?
Tell him if he doesn't stop, he will be pepper sprayed.
And then what happened?
He says, fucking do it, and started kicking the door again.
And then what happened?
Administered a short 3 to 5 second burst of OC spray.
So you sprayed him with pepper spray for 3 to 5 seconds?
Yes, which is what we were taught.
Did you strike him at all?
No.
So at this point, you still hadn't talked to any witnesses?
No.
You closed him inside the rear of the police cruiser with pepper spray in his eyes?
It was, yes.
Were the windows rolled up?
They was cracked.
Cracked how long? How?
They was cracked. Wow, man. They was cracked. Oh man. So all of this has happened. He hasn't done any investigation, hasn't talked to any witnesses about anything that happened. Yet this man is in the back of police car, bloody, beaten, hands broken, and pepper sprayed. And this officer is like, his eyes are like, those are demon eyes. Those are not human. Those are not human. I don't know if y'all can tell, but that's not human.
I'd say enough to where if somebody had free hands, they'd be able to put their fingers through the tops of both.
And did it appear to you that Melvin was suffering from the pepper spray at that point?
He was in pain from it, but it was nothing that I hadn't seen or felt myself before.
But you didn't strike him at all in the rear of the police cruiser?
I did not strike, no.
Did Melvin attempt to strike you?
In the back of the cruiser, no. He attempted to spit.
All right. You didn't write anything in your report about him attempting to spit on you at any point, did you?
No.
Very.
But you did write in your report an allegation that Melvin had leaned back and kicked towards you, striking you in the chest.
Yes, this was after, if I'm thinking right, in whenever we had to stop because he started to kick the door again as we was traveling.
All right. So you're saying that happened during the transport?
Yes.
Right. I don't think that exactly jives with your report. If you want to take a look at it,
so I just see it looks like I probably just forgot where I was in the narrative when I was typing and posed them on separate sides.
Oh yeah, that's what happened.
One looks like that one goes to the other paragraph.
That's what happened.
Reading your report, you would agree with me that it says that this encounter took place before you left the scene.
Correct.
Because you described what happened, the allegations that you're trying to get him to calm down and stop kicking the door, and that you ended up, that he tried to kick you, and that you sprayed him with pepper spray. And then you describe Deputy Adair arrives on the scene with Trooper Russ.
Yes.
So the way you wrote the report, it sounds like this all happened at the scene before you left to transport Mr. Sargent.
Yes.
But you're telling me today that your testimony, that your report is inaccurate. Is that right?
That section, yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what has already been marked as exhibit number 2 for this deposition. Now, that is the criminal complaint that charged Melvin Sargent in this case.
Yes.
And that criminal complaint includes a narrative written by you, correct?
Yes, the same narrative.
And that's the same narrative, the same police report that we've been discussing.
Yes.
You included this same report written in the same way to the magistrate, I think it was Magistrate Dorsey, to review.
Yes.
And the magistrate did review this report, and it actually indicates that probable cause was found for the warrantless arrest of Melvin Sargent that day.
Yes.
Okay. And then Melvin Sargent was prosecuted pursuant to this criminal complaint.
Correct.
Okay. Would you agree with me that the report that you submitted to the magistrate as part of this criminal complaint was under oath?
Yes.
Okay. So you're telling me here today that there are these inaccuracies in your report, but you never informed the magistrate that there were inaccuracies in your report, did you?
I didn't notice them.
So you didn't notice the inaccuracies in your report until today, August of 2022?
Yes.
Okay, so he had been charged with 2 counts of battery on an officer, right?
Yes.
And then 1 count of obstruction.
Yes.
Now, I take it the obstruction, I think you already testified, the obstruction was when you initially encountered him and tried to perform that safety check.
Yes.
He didn't initially, or he began to comply, but then pulled away.
Pulled away, yes. And
that was the obstruction.
that's the obstruction.
But you also had him charged using your report with 2 counts of battery on an officer.
Correct. Whenever he kicked more, and I got hit sometime. I don't know when it was.
Well, you wrote in your report that he had tried to kick you in the chest.
Yes.
But your report says that happened at the scene.
Yes.
You're telling me now that happened during transport.
I believe so, yes. That's what's making sense.
All right. I mean, you understand that you're under oath here today.
I do, yes.
All right. I'm not asking you to guess, and I don't want you to guess if you don't remember.
Okay.
Okay. Do you remember whether or not the allegation of Melvin trying to kick you happened before you transported Melvin or during the transport?
That was during the transport.
You're positive?
Yes.
But that's not what's represented in your report.
Correct.
Objection. Asked and answered.
All right, I'll show you what's been marked as exhibit number 3, and that is a court order or a motion form indicating that the 2 charges of battery on an officer were dismissed by the court.
Correct.
Melvin Sargent was not convicted of those allegations or of those charges, was he?
Of the batteries, no.
All right, I'm going to show you the video that we have in this case.
I can see it. Yeah. Stay there. Stay there.
Stop, bitch.
You look these motherfucking guts out.
Why? Stop hitting them, bitch. Stop hitting them.
Stop it.
Girl.
Stop.
Girl,
Stop it.
I've done it for years.
Okay, I understand that. But he's got it under control. He has got to
I
stop.
don't need to hit him in the face.
Stop it.
To get him under control. I know.
When someone comes
I can call you a bunch of state troopers if you want.
All right, so that was 0 through about 32 seconds of that video.
Correct.
That shows you in the video, right?
Yes.
And you're placing Melvin Sargent in the rear of that police cruiser.
Correct.
You saw and you heard Melvin Sargent asking you to loosen his handcuffs.
Yes.
That section of the video, would you agree with me that it shows you engaging in a use of force against Melvin Sargent?
It does.
Would you also agree with me that that section of footage, 0 through 32 seconds, does not show Melvin Sargent kicking you in the chest?
Correct.
It does not show Melvin striking you in any way?
Correct.
What would you characterize as the nature of the force that you used? What did you do?
The push in, and while he was inside the vehicle, I held his head down with my right hand because he kept trying to come up, trying to spit on me.
And again, your report mentions nothing about Melvin trying to spit on you.
Correct.
Wow.
So are you saying that you didn't strike him at all?
I never hit him in the back of the cruiser, no.
What we see in the first 30 seconds of this video, you're saying that no punches were thrown by you.
No, no.
You're just holding him down.
Yes. Holding him down, trying to talk to him, tell him calm down, quit. As soon as we get to the office, we'll figure everything out.
All right. So
That's not even in your character, man. Why does he think anybody's gonna? That's not even in your character. You show no. You don't show anything about de-escalation and trying to help people out. Come on, nobody.
So looking at your report again, the use of force that you did engage in at this point, the first 30 seconds of the video, you didn't mention anything about that in your report.
No.
Melvin Sargent was handcuffed at this time.
Yes.
All right, let's continue to watch the video. We're at 32 seconds. I'm going to play it a little longer.
Bitch, quit. Bitch, no. Bitch, please. Don't.
All right, so I stopped at 55 seconds there. From the 30-second range to the 53-second range, would you agree with me that shows additional uses of force by you against Melvin Sargent?
From forcing him into the vehicle.
You tell me.
Yeah, from forcing him into the vehicle, and that was it. From holding his head down and me getting out and using vocal commands.
All right, did you use physical force on Melvin Sargent at this time?
Define physical force.
All right, let's play it again.
Find physical force. Come on, man.
30 seconds. This time we won't stop it.
Okay.
So that was part 1. Well, let's call that part 1. And as you can see, I'm dressed like I've been in court, and I have been in jury trial for the past 2 days. So I'm pretty exhausted. This is all I've gone through so far, but you're going to want to see part 2 because if I recall correctly, and it was just last week, it gets even better. And the other police officers involved took their depositions as well. So you will want to see part 2.
All right, y'all. So that's what we're going to do. Get into part 2. We're just going to keep it rolling.
I know a lot of you enjoyed watching part 1 of the officer depositions in the Sargent versus Bish case. So this is part 2.
Hold on. Before we start part 2 of this deposition, How y'all feeling about this right now? This guy, man, I'm telling you, it is scary that we have these entities in law enforcement, man. It's terrible, man. Terrible.
If you haven't seen part 1, I'll put the link in the description. You have to watch that first. So this continues. This is part 2 and the final bit of deposition for this particular officer. In part 3, we'll get into the other officers. The use of force that you did engage in at this point, the first 30 seconds of the video, you didn't mention anything about that in your report.
No.
Melvin Sargent was handcuffed at this time.
Yes.
All right, let's continue to watch the video. We're at 32 seconds. I'm going to play it a little longer.
All right, then I will. Then I will. You don't care who you call. Do you know who? Do you know who there is? I don't care. No, you don't. That thing got killed. Come on. They got killed on 77. Bitch, quit. Bitch, no. Bitch, please.
You're winded. That's where he kicked.
Can we play it again?
Yeah.
Play it from 27 seconds, and we'll play it to about 53 seconds.
To get him under control. I know. When someone comes, I can call you a bunch of state troopers if you want. I don't care. All right, then I will. Then I will.
Right there.
You don't care who you call. Do you know who?
All right, so you're saying you saw a kick?
Yes.
All right, then I will. Then I will. You don't care who you call. Do you know who?
See his leg coming back down.
I don't care. No.
All right, you're saying you saw a kick somewhere in the 30-second range?
Yes.
So now you're saying that Melvin did try to kick you?
It appears so, yes.
Okay, but he didn't kick you?
I don't remember it right there.
Let me continue playing it, and then
Okay.
I'll ask you some questions.
They got killed. Come on. They got killed on 77. Bitch, quit. Bitch, no. Bitch, please.
From the 30-second range to the 53-second range, would you agree with me that shows additional uses of force by you against Melvin Sargent?
From forcing him into the vehicle?
You tell me.
Yeah, from forcing him into the vehicle, and that was it. From holding his head down and me getting out and using vocal commands.
All right, did you use physical force on Melvin Sargent at this time?
Define physical force.
All right, let's play it again. 30 seconds. This time we won't stop it.
Okay.
All right, so watching that video, it looks like your feet are outside the police cruiser and the upper half of your body is leaning inside the police cruiser with Melvin.
Yes.
And it looks to me like your body movements are jerking in such a way as there's some sort of activity going on in the rear of that police cruiser.
Just me holding him back like this, and as he's trying to jerk and force his way up and down, just residual movement.
Ms. Chavez has taken this video,
Yes.
right? She's talking to you as this is going on.
Yes.
Several times she says, "Bish, stop hitting him," or something to that effect.
Yes.
And you deny that you were hitting him?
Yes. I never hit him in the back of the car there. No.
When plaintiff alleges that you struck him or you punched him in the rear of that police cruiser, you deny that.
Yes.
It's your testimony that you were just holding him down.
Yes.
Other than holding him down, did you do anything else physical with Mr. Sargent in the rear seat of the police cruiser?
No, nothing.
You didn't strike him?
No.
You didn't punch him?
No.
And this is the time period where, as we can see, you were wearing those reinforced gloves.
Padded gloves. I wouldn't call them reinforced.
Padded gloves, okay. If we keep watching the video.
I don't know why he's so afraid to call them reinforced gloves, because that's what they are.
Video
It
from
doesn't help.
53 seconds on, let's go about 53 seconds to a minute.
Don't hit him like that.
Listen. When I
So from 53 seconds to a minute, you approach the camera, right?
Yes.
And watching this video, we can see you walk up with your black gloves.
Yes.
And we can see that those black gloves have blood all over the knuckles
Yes.
of your right hand.
Yes. Over the more of the ring, looks like the ring knuckle.
You're right-handed?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that that's your punching arm if you were to punch somebody?
If I punch, it goes with whichever one would be more efficient.
Yeah.
All right, so we can't see exactly what's happening inside the rear seat of the police cruiser.
When I punch, it goes to whichever one's more efficient. Bro, if you're right-handed, you punch with your right and use your left. This officer is crazy, man. Come on. You're really gonna play semantics and which arm is your punching arm? Come on now.
But we can see that when you emerge and you come over to the camera, you have blood all over your knuckles.
Correct.
Wow.
But you don't know whether or not that's Melvin Sargent's blood.
I'm not 100% sure. No.
Who else?
All right, so that's you talking to Jolena Chavez?
Yes.
So your explanation to her was, quote, when I tell him to put his hands on his head and he goes to grab his back, I'm going to protect me, he, her, or him.
Yes.
What did you mean by he, her?
I pointed around to there was a crowd. Pointed at everybody.
You didn't mention at that time any allegation of Melvin trying to kick you in the chest from the rear seat of the cruiser, right?
No.
Isn't it true that the use of force incident that we see in the first minute of this video, that's in response to the earlier encounter where you say that Melvin started to reach towards the small of his back where his gun was?
No. That use of force was done and over with.
But that's what you were talking about when you walked over to the camera.
I was explaining to her why he was under arrest.
You weren't explaining to her why you were engaging in a use of force against Melvin Sargent.
The first use of force, yes.
Okay, but she's filming you in the rear of the police cruiser.
Yeah.
And she's crying, Bish, no, stop hitting him.
Honestly, at that point, I didn't hear her. My focus was on him. And she can do whatever she wanted.
So you're saying you weren't upset at all about the fact that he had a gun on him earlier?
No.
So at what point, I mean, we saw in the video you close the door.
Yes.
And then you walk over and you talk to Jolena Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
At what point throughout this did you pepper spray Melvin Sargent?
After I go back towards the cruiser, he starts kicking the door, and that's whenever I go to the driver's side.
So the pepper spraying hadn't even occurred yet?
Correct.
After this conversation that you had with Jolena Chavez, how long after that was it that you pepper sprayed Melvin?
Top of my head, I'm not sure. It wasn't long, maybe 10 seconds, if that.
And then after you pepper sprayed him, you shut the door and left him in the rear seat?
Yes.
Did you call an ambulance for him?
No.
Why not?
He wasn't injured. He didn't complain of any injuries.
What? So let me get this straight. You beat the man senseless. You beat him senseless. Broke his hand and pepper sprayed him, and you don't call the paramedics because you want him to suffer. That is sadistic.
No need for him.
Okay, well, you knew that you had pepper sprayed him,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. After per protocol at the time, if there's no major injuries on scene, we return to the office and we decontaminate them here. Well, downstairs.
Okay, you could have done it at the scene, though.
No.
Why not?
He was under arrest, and if I didn't have any equipment or tools to decontaminate him.
All right, well,
that would require me to pull him out of the vehicle and put him and others back in harm's way. That would make no sense.
All right, well, let's.
All of this is without doing any type of investigation. He still hadn't talked to witnesses about the situation. Why the reason he's there for the call in the first place, he hadn't talked to anybody about that. Yet this man is beaten, battered, his hand is broken, and he was pepper sprayed, and you let him sit in the back of the cruiser with no medical attention.
Let's talk about the transport.
Okay.
What happened?
While we was driving, we was on Glenwood Park Road. He started cussing again, making verbal threats, started kicking the door. He almost popped it open with one of the kicks. And that's whenever we stopped on Glenwood Park Road, right in front of some church. I don't remember the church name.
And what'd you do?
I went out, got out of my seat, went around the front of the vehicle, went to the passenger rear. Callaway came up to the driver's side front, and I secured his legs. I was told Callaway as we was getting in, if he doesn't comply, we'll put a hobble restraint on him.
And what'd you do?
Callaway talked to him after while we was holding him down, and he started to comply.
There's no video footage of this now at this point.
No.
Was the idea to transport Melvin somewhere where there was no video footage of what was happening?
No.
Isn't it true that during the transport, Melvin was complaining, roll down the window, I can't breathe?
He kept complaining to roll the window down, but I never heard I can't breathe.
He's asking to roll the window down because he had pepper spray in his eyes.
Yes, and I was driving with it as well.
Did you not have some sort of barrier in between you and he?
You do, but anytime you pepper spray with anybody, you get it as well. It splashes back, and plus it particles in the air. It's not pleasant for anybody around.
Did you roll your window down?
Yes.
But you didn't roll his down.
His was down enough to where he could receive the brief relief from the air hitting his face.
This guy is evil.
Button rolled down enough to where he could stick his whole body out.
At some point during the transport, was plaintiff told, stop acting like a little bitch?
I never heard that.
You didn't say that?
No.
You didn't hear Callaway say that?
No.
And you didn't see Deputy Callaway strike Melvin Sargent at all?
No.
Throughout this whole time period, Melvin was still handcuffed?
Yes.
Behind his back?
Yes.
At no point throughout this time period did Melvin attempt to flee?
No.
After you arrived at your destination when you're transporting him, at some point did you spray down Melvin with a hose?
I did. After we arrived here at the office, we went straight into the garage. I had him kneel down, and I ran a garden hose over the back of his head, allowing the water to drain from the top of his head towards the front of his eyes.
So you basically washed off his entire head?
No, the top half where the pepper spray would have made contact with his face and eyes.
Not only did you wipe off get the pepper spray off with the hose, but you also washed blood off his face.
I didn't notice any blood.
You didn't notice any blood? No. Melvin Sargent wasn't provided any medical treatment at all?
Other than being decontaminated from the pepper spray, no.
He didn't complain?
No.
He didn't ask for any medical treatment?
No. If he would have, I would have called.
In fact, he did ask for medical treatment, and you told him he can wait till he gets to Southern Regional Jail?
No.
Okay, and so if he had any injuries, any lacerations, any fractures, you would deny that?
I didn't see any, no.
Did you evaluate Melvin for any injuries?
I looked him over, but I didn't see anything. But it was more of a just glance over. And I asked him if he was okay. He said, I'm good, motherfucker. I'm good. Fuck off. His exact words.
When you pepper sprayed Melvin, do you believe that was necessary?
Yes.
You think you could have used any lesser amount of force?
That was the lesser amount I had. I had no other tools.
Okay. Well, he was already handcuffed in the back of the police cruiser, right?
Yes.
All right. So what were you trying to achieve?
Compliance for him to stop trying to kick the door and break the door open to do who knows what.
Okay. So that's why you pepper sprayed him?
Yes.
Because he was kicking the door?
Attempting to kick the door open to do whatever to cause more harm or to run away. I don't know. I don't know what his goals was.
Would you agree with me that striking an arrestee in any way, for instance, punching, would be a use of force?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that under your department at the time, your department policies, that any use of force that you engage in against an arrestee must be documented?
Yes.
Must be documented by you?
Yes.
You would agree with me that your report in this case, your documentation, does not mention you striking Melvin Sargent in the rear of the police cruiser?
I didn't strike him in the rear of the cruiser.
You did testify earlier that you did engage in a use of force while Melvin Sargent was in the rear of the police cruiser.
Yes.
Okay, but you didn't document that either.
Documented that I forced him into the rear of the cruiser.
Okay, you didn't document any sort of physical violence.
There was no physical violence. It was an escalation of I forced him to sit.
And you have no idea what may have caused it.
How he thinks that it's not violence is, this is really unbelievable, man. Like these depositions always are. How do you have these type of people? It's crazy, man. And again, this is a sergeant.
Any injuries to Melvin Sargent?
No.
But it wasn't you.
I don't know.
Are you positive that the blood on your knuckles wasn't Melvin's?
Don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Acknowledging that you're saying that you didn't strike Mr. Sargent while he was in the rear of the police cruiser handcuffed. Would you agree with me that it wasn't necessary for you to strike him?
There was no use for a strike in the back of the cruiser, so I didn't do it.
So you didn't strike Melvin Sargent in the rear of the police cruiser because it wasn't necessary to do so?
You pepper sprayed him
He
instead.
was pinned against the seat and couldn't move, and there was no reason.
So you would agree with me that had a police officer in those circumstances struck him or punched him in the face, that would have been excessive?
Very much, yes.
You've had prior occasions of punching arrestees in the face before, right?
Yes.
So following this incident, you never did actually talk to the 911 caller, right? And Melvin Sargent wasn't charged with anything that occurred prior to your arrival?
No.
And you never interviewed Jolena Chavez?
No, I did not.
You never even asked Melvin Sargent about what happened prior to your arrival, did you?
No.
So when Melvin says or alleges that during his arrest processing that he was asking for medical treatment, you deny that?
Yes. I never heard him ask for anything other than the occasional threat.
About how long before you left for the transport did you pepper spray Melvin?
Right after he was sprayed, I believe it was pretty immediate.
Okay, so before the transport, you opened one of the doors, sprayed him in the eyes, and then shut the door.
Yes.
And you did that to gain compliance, you said?
Yes.
Because he was kicking the inside of the cruiser.
Kicking the door and attempting to break it open.
I mean, he posed no safety threat to you, did he?
From kicking the door, yes.
Okay.
Just because somebody's handcuffed doesn't mean they're not dangerous. They can still pose a threat.
Okay, he couldn't get out that door, right?
If he would have kicked it open, he could have.
So that's why you pepper sprayed him, the danger of him potentially kicking out of the door.
Kicking the door and causing who knows what.
Now he's
Did you pepper spray him to cause him pain?
Yes.
To gain compliance. That's what it's meant for.
So you pepper sprayed him to cause him pain, not necessarily in your own self-defense.
For defense from the public from the area. Where I was at, he would have had more of an opportunity to go through the other door. I was in a safer location.
And at that time, how many police officers were present?
There was 3 certified.
3 police officers were present and 1 uncertified police officer.
Yes.
She was still armed, right?
Yes. She's still pretty fresh.
And Melvin Sargent, on the other hand, was handcuffed, right?
He was, yes.
You had already shot him in the back of the police cruiser.
Yes.
So that was part 2 and the final bit of deposition for this particular officer. Basically what happens after this point, after I stop questioning him, is his lawyer then gets to ask him questions and sort of try to clean up testimony. A lot of times that's basically pretty leading questions where the lawyer is sort of picking every problem area and sort of asking a leading question. In part 3, we'll get into some of the other officers and they're asked some of the same questions and you'll see whether or not they answer the same. Now, remember, these are depositions. This is not trial. So there's a difference in questioning for deposition, which is more of a fact-finding sort of thing. And you don't necessarily follow the rules of evidence. And there's a big difference for cross-examination at trial.
Okay, y'all. I'm not sure. I think this might be it.
We can't see exactly what's happening inside the rear seat of the police.
All right, so I think this is the rest of that.
Cruiser, but we can see that when you emerge and you come over to the camera, you have blood all over your knuckles.
Correct.
And in your job now, you don't find the occasion to punch people.
I probably will, but I haven't yet.
I've done several videos on this case where my client was handcuffed in the rear of a police cruiser where his wife was filming outside.
You got body cam, I'm gonna sit right here. There you go. If you lose these motherfucking cups out, I'm gonna strip my finger.
Why?
Look at these motherfuckers, man. I'm serious.
And you can't quite see exactly what happened inside the police car, but then you see the police officer emerge with his bloody armored gloves and approach the camera.
All right, so listen.
Right.
So this is the final update for that case. It's over, it's settled, and my client got paid. So this is the case where I previously posted the video depositions. Here are a few bits of those video depositions that were important in reaching a settlement here. Then I'll tell you the settlement amount, which may surprise you. Now, when you punched Melvin, were you wearing gloves?
I was.
Tell me about your gloves.
They're a
What's up, X?
cloth mixed with a type of UFC type knuckle covering to protect my knuckles and anything I come in contact with.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as exhibit number 5 for this deposition.
Yes.
Now, I'll represent to you that that is a screenshot that I took out of the video that we have in this case. Does that screenshot accurately represent your hand and your glove on the date of this incident?
It does.
I'll also show you what's been marked as exhibit number 6. I know this isn't the greatest quality, but that is a close-up of your glove, also from the same video.
It is.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Don't hit him like that.
All right, so listen. When I tell him to put his hands on his hand
I understand.
and he goes to grab his back, I'm going to protect me, him,
I'm
her,
sorry.
or him.
I know. I'm
They're going
sorry.
to get your info. I'm taking him to the office. He's
Well, I know
going-
you both, so you don't know my info. You both know my info.
I know. She's going to get your info.
It's your testimony that these gloves, they have reinforced knuckles.
I wouldn't say they're reinforced. You know the UFC type gloves that have like a little padding? That's all it is. It's a thing. It's just, I broke my hand a few times, so I wear it so I don't do it again. And
You broke your hand a few times punching people
yes, it was in a fight.
while you were working as a police officer?
Yes.
And
Other
in your job now, you don't find the occasion to punch people.
I probably will, but I haven't yet.
Wow.
You said you threw those gloves away because they had blood on them, right?
Correct.
And that blood was Melvin Sargent's blood.
Not sure.
Well, they didn't have blood. The knuckles of your gloves did not have blood on them already
No.
on your first arrival at Melvin Sargent's house.
Correct. My mouth was bleeding as well.
All right. Well, you punched Melvin Sargent, you said, in the face.
Yes, in the cheek.
All right. And he was bleeding.
I'm not 100% sure if he was or wasn't. I didn't notice any cuts or.
All right. So you have no idea if that's Melvin Sargent's blood.
Correct.
So you're saying it could be your own blood
It could be.
on your knuckles.
Yes.
You didn't punch yourself, right?
No, I did not.
You punched Melvin Sargent.
Correct.
Yeah.
He was treated subsequently for lacerations inside his mouth. You have no idea how that could have occurred.
Inside of his mouth? No, I have no idea.
That's not from you punching him in the face.
It could. I don't know.
You have no explanation for that?
No.
That is the criminal complaint that charged Melvin Sargent in this case.
Yes.
And that criminal complaint includes a narrative written by you, correct?
Yes, the same narrative.
Would you agree with me that the report that you submitted to the magistrate as part of this criminal complaint was under oath?
Yes.
Okay, so you're telling me here today,
No.
through 32.
Stop hitting him, bitch. Stop hitting him.
Stop it.
You're just holding him down. At this point, the first 30 seconds, had a police officer in those circumstances struck him or punched him in the face. This case ended up settling for $25,000. That would have been excessive.
Very much, yes.
So this case ended up settling for $25,000. And that may be less than you were expecting. The reality of civil rights lawsuits, as I discussed in a prior video with Kentucky lawyer Chris Wiest, is that generally you don't have a whole lot of actual damages, such as medical bills or lost wages in these cases. Many times the majority of your damages in a constitutional injury case is just attorney's fees. In other words, that's just how much time I spent on the case. Now, nobody has paid me for that time, but I keep track of it so that We can request it from the judge at the end of the case if we win. In turn, that causes the defendants to value settlement negotiations accordingly prior to trial. So you always run the risk that a jury could only award $1 or $1,000. You just don't know. And if that happens, the lawyer will still get paid if you win, but the client may not. And that's why it's the client's decision on whether to settle prior to trial. And in this case, that's exactly what happened. Could we have gotten more from a jury? Maybe, maybe not. In this particular case, the video deposition clips that I showed you were the strongest aspect of the case, in my opinion. Although there were more issues at play, including unnecessary pepper spraying, the officer's denial about what took place in the rear of the police car, coupled with the video of his bloody armored gloves as he exited the car, made it extremely likely that a jury would conclude that punches were thrown despite his denials. According to the officer's own testimony, had punches been thrown while my client was handcuffed in the back of the car, he agreed that would have been excessive. Thus, I think we would have won on that issue, assuming the jury disbelieved the officer's claim that he threw new punches, which, if they're being honest with themselves, they would. But as I said, who knows what the jury would have awarded for that? 25 grand is still 25 grand at the end of the day, especially for people who could really use that money. Also, this is the reason that there was no part 3 to the video depositions, because the case settled, for those of you who have asked. And here's another interesting thing about this case. I was contacted by a major TV network who was interested in starting a new primetime TV series based on this case, on these videos. So it focused on video depositions and civil lawsuits against the police, sort of like a First 48 type deal with interrogations, but now the tables have turned where the police are now being questioned. So I actually really think it is a fascinating idea, and I hope that somebody does run with that. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and let me know in the comments if you would have accepted that settlement amount had this happened to you. You'll find my contact information in the description. If you have a case that you think I might be interested in, or if you think that I can help you, let me know. Also, if you want to contribute to the fight in qualified immunity, please donate to the Institute for Justice using my custom donation link, which is in the description. So we're tracking this now. So let's pump up those numbers to show how much we're donating. And let's keep those IJ civil rights lawyers running at full speed suing the government. Remember, freedom is scary. Deal with it.
Yeah. So you saying basically that's kind of what I want to do. I want to do like a series just based on depositions, because I really like watching the depositions just to see how corrupt these officers actually are, man. And it's insane. They will lie under oath, and when they don't lie, they'll say something so ridiculous and so incriminating, and they don't even care. They don't even see it as it incriminating them. Terrible, man. They've been violating people so long that they don't even know. They don't even know what's right or wrong anymore. Or they do, and they're just evil and don't care. Either way you put it, it's bad. Exactly. See, and this is another thing I keep telling people, oh, go file a lawsuit, sue. Okay. You know, you never know. And if you're filing a lawsuit and you really want to implement change, and you know, then you wouldn't want to settle. You would want to take it all the way to trial. But then you realize if you take it all the way to trial and win, you know, you're going to be out more than ever. You're going to be out of time, energy, and money, because you may not be compensated for all the effort and time that you put into it. So it's really rough. And you know, and I tell people I can't be out there trying to sue everybody left and right. It's, you know, it doesn't make financial sense at all. And people say, oh, you're just doing this to get a lawsuit when, you know, obviously you can, people who say that don't know anything about how the legal system works. Because getting, you know, filing a lawsuit is one thing. Following the lawsuit through and getting, you know, get into that settlement, that could be 3-4 years later. Come on now. This could never be simply about the money. I don't know why people think that, oh, you're just doing it for money. This is not, this can never be simply for the money. It's too much. It's too much of a hassle for a settlement or a verdict that you may or may not get. Patricia says our county sheriff department do not have body cam footage. That is scary. I don't know how at this time that they don't have it, and that's just scary. So that means everybody where you are needs to be filming everything and always have their own body cameras on them. Like it was to the point where I didn't even leave my house without my body camera. Exactly. Brady says corruption goes all the way to the top. That's why you got to be careful in the counties that you also get arrested in. If you gonna get, if you are gonna go take it all the way there and say, oh, I don't care if they arrest me, then it is what it is. You got to know and be sure that you are comfortable with the county that's happening in, because you know you may think, oh, it's gonna be all good. You know, everything's gonna be dropped, this and that. You know, and I'll be out in a couple hours, and then you realize that the whole county is corrupt, and now they're in it to ruin your life. Exactly, Ron Moore. That's why I get so annoyed when people say slam dunk lawsuit or easy settlement. They don't know the whole process. You know, I'm telling you, when I hear it or see it in the comments and people say, oh, blah, blah, this and this and this and this. Okay. First, even filing a lawsuit is not free. I don't know why people like minimum. I think minimum you need is maybe $500 to $1,000 just to start filing. And okay, let's say I do, you know, I can, of course I can do the $500,000 to file it, but then you got to pay more for lawyer fees, more for, like, it's going to be a lot of BS that goes into it, a lot of time that you're not getting paid for, energy, and you know, all, like, it's a lot of stuff, time away from your family, time away from a business or your job, all type of stuff that goes into it. You know, it's very expensive, and not just the dollar amount. Right. Every department should have body cams by now. I can't believe they don't. Yeah, and it cost Philip $30K for Turner versus Driver. And then there's no county cop should be without body cam, body worn camera and dash cam. Yeah, that's why I don't do small towns. Yeah, that's why I'm telling you, I make sure I pay attention to all of that when I go out, and you know, you got to pay attention. Yeah, I can't leave home without my body cam and sell. Yeah, charged all the way up. Sometimes no lawyer will even take it, because even if it's easy, it's not worth their time for the small amount likely to win. Exactly. You know, 25,000, you know, that, I mean, that's a significant amount of money, but it's not, you know, you can hustle up 25,000, you know, that's a possible number you can hustle up within a year, depending on what you do. That I don't think that's not a life-changing amount, you know, is what I'm trying to say. Not trying to say that that's not a good sum of money. It's just not a life-changing amount. You know, that may be good for a few months, but it's not life-changing enough for you to go through all of what you're going to have to go through to get that. But yeah, y'all, glad y'all decided to join me with this. This was a very interesting one. Another display of pure evil in law enforcement. That cop was definitely sadistic, and I think there are a lot of demons in the police force that need to be exercised. That's why he got lawyer fees outside from the 25K. So didn't come from the plaintiff. Good. Yeah, 25K isn't worth the retaliation. I'm telling you, like, it depends on what I'm not gonna. It depends on what situation you're in, you know, and you know, if you're let's say a middle class person, I mean, I don't think it's going to be worth it for you. If you're poor or low middle class, and you know, 25K would, you know, probably be a real big difference in your life. But it's still like, is it really worth all of what you're gonna have to go through to deal with that? Especially if you're still living in that same county or city. It's gonna be rough. You see what happened with Chuck Brunson, where you got all those units following him at nighttime, you know, all because he's trying to hold them accountable. That's it. All he's trying to do is hold them accountable, and they don't like it. You know, absolutely insane. Brady said, wouldn't even pay off a quarter of my car. Dang, Brady, what kind of car you drive? But satisfaction from exposing. Yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to be, you know, that's why I say I wanted this platform to be at a certain level before I start getting into, you know, getting arrested and, you know, allowing myself to get arrested for you know, the violations that occur, and being willing to take that arrest. I don't think it made sense when my channel wasn't even over 5K, you know, or 10K for me to be, nah, I'm not. I couldn't do that. That's crazy. The 25K was lowball, but it was his decision to make. I've seen people unlawfully detained, not brutalized, and released 30 minutes later, get way more than 25K. That's the thing about it. You never know. It's so many factors. It's so many factors that go into, you know, that decision and that settlement amount. There's so many different factors that go into it. You know, Right. Add a few more zeros to that. Exactly. Patricia said, I'm not willing to take no more arrest. And that's the thing about, you don't know if that arrest is going to just be a simple arrest. Look what happened to him when he got arrested. They beat him up, threw him in the car, pepper sprayed him, and later they drove down some, stopped again, beat him up some more, and then took him to the precinct or to the jail. You don't know if you're even gonna make it. You don't even know if you're gonna make it to the jail. To think, oh, I don't care, I'll go to jail. You don't know if you're gonna make it to. You don't even know if you're gonna make it there. Then you don't know if you're gonna make it there and still be able to walk later, because obviously you see they've broken people's necks. They've killed people way before they had a chance to even see a judge or anything. So you just don't know. And it can be, you think, oh, it's just gonna be a ride to jail. No, that could be your last ride ever. Brady said that they will retaliate, and they absolutely do. They absolutely retaliate. They will absolutely know who you are, know your address, and they will stalk you and try to find any way to make life hard for you in that county and city. And then when you move, they're going to tell the departments where you move to about you, and it's going to be an everlasting thing. I tell you, but I wouldn't know what it was. You got Instagram. Brady, send me an email. If you can, send me an email. Plus, settlements come directly from police department, budget officials directly. Exactly. You don't know if you don't know what's going to happen after, you're in their custody, because it's just my thought, if they're already that corrupt to arrest you for not breaking the law, or arrest you without doing any type of investigation, imagine when you're actually you're in their custody. I can't trust that. I can't trust nothing about that. Hashtag stop muting body cam footage. Was in Louisiana recently. They just shut down the dark site that they took arrestees before the jail. See, that's what I'm talking about. Stuff like this is really going on. You cannot trust that. And what I think what happens is, a lot of people don't think it all the way through. When auditors go out there and they go, oh, I'm gonna do this and this and this and this. I don't think they think it all the way through of the scenarios that can happen, especially if you got family, you got people relying on you and stuff like that. You got to think. See, yes, they did shut down the torture building. So, hey, Ron, maybe we can check out some wonder if they got any videos on that. If you can find any videos on it, go ahead and email it to me, and one day we'll watch it on we'll watch it. We'll watch some videos on it, or talking about it, or look at some news articles, or whatever we can find on it. I'll cover it. Yeah. But all right, y'all, we've been on here for a good amount of time. I've been working on, dropping more content, so I'm putting some stuff together right now. So that should be up either tomorrow or the day after. But with that being said, I appreciate all y'all for joining me. And yeah, we're gonna keep at it, keep it going. And yeah, hashtag stop muting body cam footage. And AWB, I'm out. I appreciate y'all. Catch y'all on the next one.